Hello, everybody. Good evening. How are we doing today? This is Magdalene. Oh, I can't believe it. This is day three. Day three of the campaign that started on Monday on understanding your why and going for it. Understanding your why and going for it. On Monday, I talked about, what about your accent? Yesterday, I talked about close the door to doubts. And today I'm going to be talking about who stole your identity. Who stole your identity? I decided to talk about this because I feel that so many people, so many of us are hiding and using different forms of excuses instead of going ahead and trying to achieve what we need to achieve. I will further explain what I mean by that. It's easier to moan and to hide than to actually push ahead, even when there's pain. Especially when there's pain, it's easier to just, say, you know what, that's it. Let me just pack up. But when you have to push through that pain in order to get to that place of celebration, in order to get to that place of honor, in order to get to that place you've been waiting for, it's difficult. I want to give us a definition because I was doing the research, writing things up, and I wanted to write something. And I always like to write something down in a sense of the definition or some form of example so you better understand what I'm talking about. Who stole your identity? Identity, it says in psychology, sociology, anthropology, and philosophy, identity is the conception, qualities, beliefs, and expression that makes a person. So in psychology, sociology, anthropology, and philosophy, identity is the conception, the qualities, beliefs, and expressions that makes a person. We hear about stolen identity all the time when thieves unfortunately steal someone else's details for fraudulent activities. That I do know about, and that is always common practice. But that's not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking about the person, the individual. Everything that comes together to make you that individual. Your identity is who you are. I've just read that example to you, that definition to you just now. It's who you are. Can someone steal your identity? They can steal bank statement, they can steal cards, they can do all manner of things in order for them to, like I say, do something fraudulent with it. But can they really steal who you are? Your personal details can be stolen for forgery purposes. But can your personality be stolen? Can the way you smile be stolen? Can the way people are made to feel once they come in contact with you be stolen? The way you relate with people, your mannerism, can that be stolen? Even if someone wanted to copy you, but can they really be you? I always give an example of identical twins. They can be identical from the head to the toe, but once you do a fingerprint, that's it, they're different. Two different individuals. You are you, and there are people out there who have made a business for themselves by impersonating someone else, legally or illegally. So when you talk about let me use Elvis Presley. He has so many Elvis Presley impersonators who are making money out of being Elvis Presley for coming for various events and stuff like that. We know that one, it has become a big business. So it's not just Elvis Presley, David Beckham, you name it. There are loads of them out there. But there are those who are obviously making money, again, the illegal manner, by stealing somebody else's documents in order for them to fraudulently buy stuff, in order for them to fraudulently set up accounts and just milk that innocent victim, of their hard-earned cash. Do you know it's easier to moan about something that has gone wrong than to actually sit up and do something constructively? Like I said earlier on, it's easier to moan. It's easier to moan and complain about something that has gone wrong. After that moaning and complaining, then what? What do you do after that? Remember the definition I gave earlier on. I talked about Identity being the conception, qualities, beliefs, and expression that makes you the individual. You are unique in your own way and in your own style. You are you. There's no two of you. You may have a twin, an identical twin, yes, but there is no two of you. You are you. The realization that your imprint is peculiar to yourself and yourself alone should enable the mind shift. The realization that your imprint is peculiar to you and you alone should enable the mind shift. Who stole your identity? I want to tackle it in this angle of when we sit down and see other people doing things, and most of the time, unfortunately, we tend to want to pull them down. We tend to say things that are negative about those people instead of looking at the positive aspects of those people. What stopped you from doing what you need to do? You see what? The energy we take to pull other people down, that energy, we can come together and do something constructive. Who stole your identity? I'm asking a question. Who stole your identity? What stopped you, or who stopped you from achieving what you need to achieve? It's easier. It's so easy to sit down and moan. It's so easy to see everything that has gone wrong and to talk bad about somebody else. But what are you doing? That's the question. Who stole your identity? Who stopped you from doing what you need to do? Who stopped you from doing what you need to do? Yesterday, when I talked about closing the door to doubts, I said to you that when I work with clients vocally, especially those who say, oh, I can't sing, and I say, no, that's not true. I don't believe in that. I always say to people, we all have a voice, and I say to people, fake it until you get it real. Fake it until you get it real. And I'm saying that again tonight. Fake it until you get it real. Do not sit down and moan and be envious of somebody else. Admire people, yes, when they're doing fantastic things. Admire them, but never, ever, ever be envious, because that's just a waste of time, effort, energy. Shall I go on? Who stole your identity? In other words, who stopped you from doing what you need to do? Or what stopped you from doing what you need to do? So you can't do it today, but there is tomorrow. So long you have life tomorrow. What stopped you from doing it tomorrow? So you can't build that house today. But can you begin to gather the money so that you can begin to lay the foundations one level at a time? Why must we always be in a race? Because this person has done that, so I must be in a race to do the same thing as well. No, everybody has their own time and season for everything. We are on this earth, but each and every one of us have our individual times for everything. Who stole your identity? Who stopped you from doing what you need to do? You know, the biggest accuser of anybody is ourselves. We accuse ourselves, and because we don't like what we see internally, we tend to then want to push it out to somebody else and let someone else take that blame. But we don't want to tackle what's happening inside. It's easier to blame somebody else. It's easier to moan. It's easier to pull somebody down than to actually look within. To work internally, work from the inside out. It's so easy to point accusing fingers. But you know what? Once you're pointing a finger like that, 4 are pointing back to you. What are you doing about your own self? Who stole your identity? Who stopped you from doing what you need to do? Your identity is your conception, the qualities, the beliefs, the expression that makes you. So you have an idea and you happen to discuss it with somebody else whom you think it's your family member or trusted friend. And before you know it now, they run away with that idea and they're running with it. And so what? It hurts. It's painful. I understand that. But it was your idea. If it was their idea, that would have been given to them. But it's your idea. What stopped you from still doing what you said you're going to do? Just because they took it, does that mean that you can't do it? That's why I said again earlier on, I said, can somebody fake your smile? The way you smile. The way you, the listener, smiles. Can I fake that smile? I have my own smile. You have your own smile. The way you make people feel around you, can somebody fake that? Somebody can come and try to pretend to be nice, but how long will that pretense go on for? You are you. I am me. So who stole your identity? I'm going to keep sounding that and sounding that until that really registers in our mindsets. Because there has to be a mind shift. Our imprints are peculiar to us. It's just for us, for us. The imprint is what we live in this life as we're going on in life. That's that daily thing that we're doing, almost like you're living a legacy on a daily basis. Nelson Mandela died, and when he died, all that kept coming from his death and everything to do with his life while he was alive was his legacy, a legacy, a legacy, a legacy of forgiveness, a legacy of forgiveness. Does that mean that he was such a forgivable human being while he was still alive? Does that mean he didn't have any hurt? He didn't irritate people. He didn't like, ugh. Yes, but he came to a point that after he came out of prison, he said, I can either come out and be angry, or I can come out and talk about forgiveness. And that's what we remember him by. His legacy, forgiveness. What can people remember you by when you're gone? What can they remember you by when you're gone? Who stole your identity? So if you know you are going to die tomorrow, let me just use this. It's very morbid, I know, but I'm just going to say it anyways. If you know you're going to die tomorrow, and you sit down today, are you going to think back and regret what things you haven't done? Are you going to sit back and say, wow, I've lived a good life. I've really impacted people. Who stole your identity? It's a question that requires you to think about yourself. It's a question that requires you to sit down and reflect on your life. It's a question that requires you to take stock of everything you do. Each and every one of us on this earth are trying at different ways to make ends meet. Each and every one of us. So when you see one person who is pushing ahead of you, don't be envious of that person. Admire that person. Look at what that person is doing. I say, wow, I love what that person is doing. What can I take from that person that I can make to be part of my own thing and do my thing? Instead of sitting and say, look at that person. Does he or she think it's only them? What does that mean? What does that mean? That time you waste talking bad about somebody else, what are you doing about your own self? What are you doing about your own self? I said to you yesterday that I started this 5-day campaign on understanding your why and going for it because of a close friend of mine. Because I look at people who are doing great things and I like, wow, I envy them. No. I admire them. And I sit down and I'm like, you know what? You can do it. Go for it. It doesn't have to be perfect. We are learning. Practice makes perfect. We are all learning. But I'm taking my step. I'm taking my step because I know where my end goal is. I know what I'm striving for. I'm taking it one day at a time. I've realized that no one else can take my identity. My identity is me. I am Magdalene. There may be other Magdalenes out there. Fantastic, lovely name. But I am me. I am me and you are you. So do what you need to do for yourself, while I do what I need to do for myself. I'm trying to just push ahead for myself to be able to achieve my own goals. What are your goals? Are you achieving them? Are you striving to achieve them? Are you striving to achieve those goals? Are you busy sitting down, pulling someone else down? Who stole your identity? It's time to wake up from our sleep. It's time to wake up from that rut. It's time to wake up from that worthless road that we are in and begin to take stock of our lives. Because too many times we gather together to have parties that we pull other people down. When we can gather together to talk about how we can actually build ourselves, our families, and our communities. Life is too short. Life is too short to waste all the effort and energy talking down about somebody else when you can actually be doing something better for yourself. There is greatness inside each and every one of us. Do you know that? Have you realized that? Who stole your identity? In other words, who gagged your mouth and stopped you from talking? Who took away the keys from your life? Who is writing the book of your life? Who is dictating to you how you should stand, how you should sit, how you should wake up, how you should lie down? The power is in your hands. What are you doing with it? What are you doing with it? Who stole your identity? It's time to wake up and stop playing games. Each year that goes by, and you grow older, it should come with a level of maturity. But if we're still playing playground games whilst what we used to do whilst we're in school, then this periscope is not for you. I'm talking to people who are prepared, who are hungry for that mind shift, who understand that Rome was not built in a day, but they need to take conscious steps in order for them to become what they were born to be. Understand your why and go for it. That is the theme, and each day we have different topics. What is your why? Is your why big enough? Is your why big enough that even when it seems like everything else is falling apart around you, your why keeps holding you on and you keep putting your head above the water and you say, you know what? The water is right there, but my head is going to stay up above the water. I'm not going to drown. I'm not going to drown. I'm not going to drown because my why is taking me to where I need to get to. The situation around me is horrible. The situation around me is not good. The situation around me tells me no, but I'm not going to drown. Who stole your identity? Remember, no one else can be you. Even if you have an identical twin, he or she can never be you. Because your uniqueness, your beauty, I'm not talking about the physical beauty, I'm talking about the inward beauty. Your characteristics, everything about you is unique to you. There is greatness inside of you that the people out there in the world needs to hear. But then when you sit down and pull someone else down because you feel that you have some form of inferiority complex within you, you won't go anywhere. You just live a very bitter and frustrated life. And at the end of the day, what happens? You bring about the death in an early way. No need for that. No need for that. Who stole your identity? I just hope and pray that this periscope that started on Monday is actually making a massive difference in somebody's life. I'm not about the masses. I'm about the individual. And if it's not making an impact, it's not because I failed. It's just because you refuse to listen. It's the way you say it. Is the glass half full or half empty? It's just the way you say it. Who stole your identity? This life is too short. It's too short. This life is too short for us to begin to pull other people down. It's too short. Stand up and make a difference. Stand up and make a difference. Your family deserves this. Your community deserves this. You deserve this. It's time for a change. Obama said, yes, we can. Change, that was his campaign. Change, yes, we can. Are you ready for that change? Are you hungry enough for that change? Will your accent stop you from making that change? Are you ready to close the door to doubts? Are you ready now to sit down and begin to talk to yourself and say, you know what? I'm no longer going to sit down and cry about things when I can actually sit down to begin to achieve greatness. Someone else can only have power to your life when you give them that power. Who stole your identity? It's time to wake up. It's time to wake up. Let me end with this, the definition I gave you at the beginning. In psychology, sociology, anthropology, and philosophy, identity is the conception, qualities, beliefs, and expressions that makes a person. Until tomorrow evening, same time, 9:30. This is Magdalene Adenike. God bless. Bye for now.